The Chester and Connah's Quay Railway officially opened to traffic on March 31st, 1890, a project spearheaded by the ambitious Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway, aka the MS&LR, under the leadership of Sir Edward Watkin. The line was a strategic masterstroke designed to break the local monopoly of the London and North Western Railway by providing a direct link between the industrial heartlands of the North West and the burgeoning ironworks of North Wales. By leveraging its existing partnership within the Cheshire Lines Committee (CLC), the MSLR ensured that this new infrastructure served as a vital arterial route for heavy industry, primarily catering to the immense demand for transport from the steel and iron districts of Connah's Quay and Shotton. Structurally, the line was designed by its pivotal connections at Mickle Trafford, where it joined the West Cheshire Railway, an integral part of the CLC rail network. This junction allowed for a seamless flow of traffic between Manchester Central and the MSLR's own station in Chester Northgate. A key feature of this arrangement was a triangular junction just north of Northgate Station, which included the Liverpool Road spur. This avoiding line was crucial for operational flexibility, allowing heavy through freight and seasonal passenger expresses to bypass the city centre terminus entirely, while still maintaining a high-speed connection between the Manchester lines and the crossing at Hawarden Bridge. The mid-20th century signalled a gradual decline for the branch as passenger habits shifted to motor and buses, and the railway corridor and network contracted under the Beeching Acts. Regular services to Wrexham and New Brighton were withdrawn in September 1968, and Chester Northgate Station finally closed its doors on October 6, 1969, with remaining passenger services diverted to Chester General Station. Despite the loss of its stations, the line remained an essential industrial corridor for decades. It famously hosted heavy steel traffic from the British Steel plant at Shotton and iron ore trains from Birkenhead. Freight operations continued with varying intensity, including a period of single tracking in the mid-1980s until the final closure in June 1992, a demise precipitated largely by the shuttering of the Ravenscraig Steelworks in Scotland, which had been the line's primary consumer and customer. Following the cessation of freight services, the tracks were lifted in the mid-1990s, making way for a significant environmental transformation. The redundant track bed was repurposed into the Chester Millennium Greenway, a prominent stretch of the National Cycle Network Route 5. Today, this traffic-free path provides a scenic and level corridor for cyclists, dog walkers, runners, joggers and horse riders, stretching from the rural junction at Mickle Trafford, passing through the heart of the city of Chester over the Shropshire Union Canal and extending out towards the historic Hawarden Bridge Station and into Shotton. The transition from heavy industrial artery to modern-day greenway has preserved the railway's legacy, allowing the original engineering of the MS&LR to serve as a vital recreational link for the local communities that live alongside it.
Chester is a monumental narrative etched into the landscape of the Northwest. Established as the Roman stronghold Deva Victrix around AD 79, it served as the empire's largest military outpost in Britain. This legacy is still declared by the country's most complete circuit of defensive walls. A strategic bridge on the River Dee, Chester evolved from a tactical Roman base into a fierce royalist bastion during the English Civil War. It endured a grueling 2-year siege and the catastrophic 1645 Battle of Rotun Moor, leaving the city a storied witness to the rise and fall of dynasties. As the Industrial Revolution dawned, Chester pivoted from a military site to a commercial engine. It embraced the Shropshire Union Canal and specialised industries like the iconic leadworks Shot Tower. However, the true transformation arrived in 1848 with Chester General Station. This infusion of steam and steel linked the city to the heart of the British Empire, turning it into a premier Victorian interchange. The railways ensured Chester remained a regional leader, bypassing industrial grime to become a hub for high society tourism, trade, and law. Iconic landmarks of the city. Chester Town Hall, a Grade II listed, Gothic Revival masterpiece completed in 1869. Its facade features a striking use of banded grey and red sandstone, topped with a 160-foot tower. It remains the seat of civic pride, housing a preserved Victorian courtroom and acting as a prestigious venue for ceremonies and city events. Eastgate Clock, the city's definitive icon, designated Grade I listed. Commissioned for Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee in 1897, it sits atop the 1768 gateway. It is famously the most photographed clock in England after Big Ben, in the capital city of London. St. Peter's Church at the Cross, a Grade I listed building sitting on the site of the Roman Praetorium. Today, it is a vibrant, active Anglican church that integrates a community cafe with pioneering ministries like Night Church, offering a unique place of sanctuary and worship within the city's nightlife. A celebration of Chester, located on Northgate Street near the Town Hall, this bronze monument was unveiled in 1992. It depicts four figures: a Roman, a monk, a cavalier, and a modern woman standing back-to-back, symbolizing the distinct historical eras that have shaped the city. Chester Cathedral, a Grade I listed monument that evolved from a Benedictine abbey into a world-class centre for heritage. Its architecture spans centuries, from Norman arches to perpendicular Gothic, serving as the city's spiritual pinnacle. 15. Foregate Street, formerly the Royal Bank of Scotland, this Grade II listed building was designed in 1921. Its striking black and white timber framing reflects Chester's historic vernacular revival aesthetic and its legacy of commercial wealth. A modern regional hub. In the 21st century, the University of Chester has transformed the city into a vibrant centre for innovation. Geographically, Chester acts as a vital regional nexus and a gateway for Wrexham and Bangor. It provides seamless connectivity to the northern powerhouse cities of Manchester, Salford, Liverpool, and Stoke-on-Trent. With rapid express links to Birmingham and London, Chester remains a perfectly balanced intersection where ancient Roman foundations support a thriving, interconnected modern future.
So roughly around here is the site of Chester Northgate Station. This is the city and county town of Chester in Cheshire, or as it is part now, Cheshire Western Chester. The site of Chester Northgate has been since demolished and redeveloped for the Northgate Arena slash Northgate Brio Centre. There's no trace of the railway at all here at Chester Northgate, as it's been heavily redeveloped. There's a lot of racket going on because there's works going on near the car parking entry, so sorry for the loud noise. To prove this is the site of Northgate, if I come across here quickly, zoom in, there's Northgate Arena, Brio, and literally there at the back is Chester Cathedral. So this would have been probably closer to the city than Chester General and Chester Liverpool Road. But what's interesting is just below here is where the modern railway lines run. They run literally in this deep cutting underneath the road. If I can zoom in, you can actually see the lines going that way towards Chester General. And of course, Chester Northgate was the terminus of the Cheshire Lines Committee's West Cheshire Railway, and also the terminus of the Connah's Quay and Chester Railway. And there was also the spur that went between Mickle Trafford East and Chester Liverpool Road, so that meant trains, I'm afraid, didn't have to come into Chester Northgate and then go back up again. There was already a junction to kind of let trains bypass here should they need to. The station here closed in the 1950s and was completely closed in the late 60s, where it was redeveloped. The line between Mickle Trafford East and Hardwen Bridge / Shotton remained open up until the 1990s for freight, when that was also closed, and then became part of the Chester Millennium Greenway, which runs between Deeside and Chester, as well as out to Mickle Trafford, following the whole route of that line, which we will look at in another video. So this was Chester Northgate Station, and this brings an end to our coverage of the West Cheshire Railway. Thank you so much for watching this. Please leave a like, share and subscribe, and from here in Chester, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye for now. So guys, sorry, this is just a side thing. I could not briefly find the old track bed between Chester Northgate and Chester Liverpool Road, or Mickle Trafford East. However, I found it now. It roughly came through here, where these apartment buildings are here, and ran slightly through there into Chester Northgate. This is off of Northgate Avenue. So sorry, this was just a quick side thing before I get to the station. We are here on the Chester Millennium Greenway, here at the site of Chester Liverpool Road, which was the first stop on the way towards Connah's Quay. As we can see, the site of the station is now long gone. It is now occupied by, as I mentioned earlier, the Chester Millennium Greenway and the Rio gym is up there on the embankment, Total Fitness. You can just about see the curve of the roof. I'm not 100% sure if these arches are original or not. They likely were or aren't. We're facing that way towards Chester Northgate, where the West Cheshire Railway would have ran into Northgate, as well as connected here towards Chester Liverpool Road. And we face that way towards Shotton, Connah's Quay. So this was Chester Liverpool Road. We'll now head on to the next one. So we're here at the site of Blacon Station. This is the suburb of Blacon in Chester, within Cheshire, Western Chester. As we can see, the site of the station has long been demolished. It is now part of the Chester Millennium Greenway. There is some replica signs here with Blacon on, paying tribute to the railway that came through here. Although I actually am not sure, but I think this one here is actually the original station sign, primarily because of it being bigger. Because these ones here are definitely replicas on the left, whereas this one looks a bit more like it would have likely belonged to the old station. Of course, it could be a replica as well. If you can let us know in the comments, that'd be great. Yeah, we face this way along the old Connah's Quay and Chester Railway towards Connah's Quay, which is actually up there on that signal gantry turn signpost. Connah's Quay is to the right and Chester is back that way to the left. One thing I will mention is literally no stations survive along this route at all. These are all demolished after the closure to passengers, with it just being open, like I mentioned before, to freight up until the 1990s. Then they closed that and it's now become the Millennium Greenway. So it's a pretty much intact line between Mickle Trafford and Shotton through obviously the central part of Chester, with only the bit at Chester Northgate built on now with the leisure centre and developments. So obviously I'm not saying this is going to reopen ever again or anytime soon, but it's still a good preserved line if they wish to reopen it for railways or maybe trams or who knows, but it is well preserved. So this was Blacon Station. We'll now head on to the next one. So guys, we're here at the site of Sorgall Station. This is the village of Sorgall in Cheshire, Western Chester. However, this station was actually located in Flintshire in North Wales. So we've crossed the border into Wales from England at this station here. Being the first one in Wales on the Connah's Quay and Chester Railway. We're facing that way back towards Chester along the former line. And we face that way towards Connah's Quay and Shotton. Of course, this is all part of the Chester Millennium Greenway to Harwarden Bridge. There we go, I've corrected myself. I'm learning, guys, don't worry. So, this was Sorgall Station. If anyone wonders how that's spelled, Saughall. So, this was, like I said, Sorgall Station here in Wales, although it's actually in England, the village. We'll now head on to the next one. So guys and girls, we are here at the site of Sealand Station. This served the village of Sealand in Flintshire on the Connah's Quay and Chester line, and was pretty much one of the last stops along this line before it joined up with the Borderlands line between Wrexham and Bidston. Now, the one interesting thing I found here with Sealand is it's actually nowhere near the actual village centre. In fact, it's pretty closer to... This would actually have been much closer to what is essentially the Garden City community, which I think is a new build, pretty much a suburb of Queen's Ferry and Shotton, built on some old industrial land and discarded military land. Because Sealand was actually much further that way, back towards Chester and Sorgall, as you saw with the church. But there's obviously MOD Sealand as well, and Sealand camps, so it looks like Sealand had stretched over a bigger area than just the main village centre itself. It looks like there's an old lamppost here and some old fence posts, albeit left in an overgrown state. And this is pretty much where roughly the Chester Millennium Way ends, during, like I said, the Borderlands line, or you can only go left towards Shotton at Harwarden Bridge, as obviously east towards Bidston is still an active line, as is the line obviously towards Shotton. But they've managed to squeeze this old track formation roughly towards Harwarden Bridge. So this was Sealand Station. We'll now head on to the next one. So, this is going to be a bit of an oddball one. If anyone knows this better than me, then please do comment. This, roughly around here, where I'm standing, where the trees here curve round, this is apparently the site of Chester Junction Golf Club Halt Station. Now, this was on the way down towards Sealand and Chester, but then round here is where the curve towards Shotton goes, to the west here, but then to the east is going towards Bidston and Birkenhead. But there's apparently an old station here called Chester Junction Golf Club Halt. I mean, obviously there's no golf courses here no more, so they must have enjoyed their golf in them days on this line or round here. We're facing that way back towards Chester along the Connah's Quay and Chester line, pretty much where the Chester Millennium Way begins to wind down its route. And we face this way towards Shotton, Deeside in North Wales to the west, and Bidston and Birkenhead, historically Cheshire but now Wirral in Merseyside, to the east. So these stations here are going to be a tiny bit confusing to those who may or may not have known the layout of these different stations. In fact, if I've got time, because it is pushing on towards late evening, I'm going to see how many of these I can spot. But of course, we've got here the signs: Neston, Path, Zone 3 and 4, Chester, Zones Parafu 1 and 2, Connah's Quay, Connah, and then Hawarden Bridge, Pont Penalog, with the station obviously on there and the cycle routes. So back down there, that was Chester Junction Golf Club Halt. Let's go and have a look at the other ones. Opened in 1924 by the Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway, Hawarden Bridge was built specifically to serve the massive nearby John Summers and Sons Steelworks, now Tata Steel. It is situated near the former Connah's Quay and Chester Railway line. The station is defined by its proximity to the monumental Hawarden Swing Bridge, a feat of Victorian engineering that allowed the line to cross the River Dee while still permitting maritime traffic. Also located nearby to Hawarden Station is the former Chester Golf Club Halt Station, which was built on the Connah's Quay and Chester Railway. However, this station closed early on and was replaced by the nearby Birkenhead Golf Junction platform and the Chester Golf Junction platforms, both of which were on the Borderlands line and the Connah's Quay and Chester Railway line. The station is located at the northern end of the bridge on the Borderlands line. It is one of the most industrial settings for a railway station in Wales, surrounded by the vast steel processing plant and the Dee Marsh. Historically, it was a bustling commute stop for thousands of steel workers, though it has since become a more tranquil, isolated location. Today, it serves as a request stop on the Transport for Wales network. Services are limited and primarily timed to coincide with shift patterns at the nearby industrial park. Passengers must signal the driver to stop, a vestige of its role as a dedicated industrial halt. Shotton High Level opened on the 1st of October 1891 as Connah's Quay and Shotton. Established by the Wrexham, Mold and Connah's Quay Railway, built on a significant embankment, it was a centrepiece of the Hawarden Loop Line, a double-track industrial bypass that allowed heavy goods to avoid the steep gradients of older routes. The station's original timber buildings and platforms were designed to be temporary, yet they became a permanent fixture of the Great Central Railway's northern network. The station is elevated on a bridge over the North Wales coastline in Shotton, serving as the high proportion of the town's unique rail crossing. It is located on the Borderlands line, which historically formed the northern core of the WM and CQR. From its platforms, one can see the start of the steep 1 in 53 climb towards Hawarden and the complex junction that once diverted mineral trains towards the Connah's Quay docks. Services are primarily operated by Transport for Wales, running an hourly passenger service between Wrexham Central and Bidston. The station acts as a vital interchange for commuters from the inland villages of Flintshire heading towards Liverpool via the Merseyrail connection at Bidston. Historically, it also hosted services to the now closed Chester Northgate station until that branch was withdrawn in 1968. For the 2024 to 2025 period, usage is estimated at an overall Shotton figure of 276,948 with an additional 22,332 recorded annual interchanges. The high-level platforms remain the essential link for the Borderlands line, facilitating north-south movement across the county.
Commercial market.